this video, I'm going to take a look at a few settings from across the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise that I think would make fun and innovative map locations for the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. So the game, which is inspired by the original 1974 film, pits a team of 3 sadistic family members against 4 survivors, whose goal is to escape from the map without becoming the next ingredient in the cook's barbecue. The game currently offers 3 maps based on settings from that film. The family house, which is the site of most of the film's horrific scenes, the gas station, inspired by the Last Chance gas station where Sally and her friends first encounter the cook, and the slaughterhouse, which is seen briefly from the road in the film. Now, the game is already proving to be very popular with both gamers and fans of the film, so naturally many fans have already begun clamoring for Gun Interactive to add more content from the franchise, but this isn't as easy as it sounds. Gun Interactive currently only holds the license to the first film. Gun Interactive's CEO and president, Wes Keltner, took to Twitter to tell players that they shouldn't get their hopes up for sequel content anytime soon.
Friendly reminder, we have the interactive rights to the 1974 film. We can't put characters or locations in from other TX films because we don't have those rights.
However, he did further clarify,
I'm not saying it isn't possible. I'm saying that we're focused on the first film. That's what we have the rights for. However, in the future we can pursue the other films. Nothing is guaranteed. But the higher the hype, the more likely Hollywood picks up the phone.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Okay, so hypothetically speaking, what locations from the other films in the franchise could potentially make suitable maps for the game? The first and most obvious choice is the Texas Battleland amusement park from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2. Texas Battleland is an abandoned amusement park that serves as the home base of the Sawyer family in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. The location was filmed in an actual Texas amusement park called Matterhorn that had closed down in the early 80s. In the film, the Sawyer family has taken refuge in an underground lair located beneath the abandoned amusement park. The lair is a series of interconnected tunnels and chambers carved out of the underground spaces beneath the park. The maze-like network of passageways, rooms, and caverns would be a perfect location for the game, offering loads of hiding places, areas for chases, and just an interesting vibe altogether. The weird lighting and gruesome decor would add to the tension and horror as the victim players navigate the labyrinth of corridors while being pursued by the maniacal family players. Of all the locations in the franchise, this one is probably the most unique, offering something different from what is currently in the game while still complementing the game's playstyle perfectly. And if Gun Interactive really wanted to be creative about it, they could create the above-ground part of Texas Battleland, because there's just something inherently creepy about abandoned amusement parks. Also from Part 2 is the K-Okla radio station. In the film, the station is where the film's hero, Stretch, hosts a late-night call-in show, until Leatherface and Chop Top show up to terrorize her. This scene is one of my favorites in the whole franchise, and a lot of it has to do with the whole neon-lit vibe of this station. It feels cluttered and claustrophobic, which could translate well to a game map. Obviously, this isn't the biggest location, but there are ways Gun Interactive could use artistic license to expand this area out, similar to what they did with the gas station map. First of all, the station occupies the second floor of a 2-story building, with a gun shop on the ground floor. While we never see this gun shop in the film, it could be a fun addition to this setting. Maybe one of the escapes could be that you open up a gun display and blow Leatherface's face off. I mean, he's just gonna get another one, right? Switching gears, the next location I want to look at is the Hewitt House from the 2003 Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. The 2003 remake made several key changes to the original story. The family was now named the Hewitts, and instead of a typical farmhouse, the family lived in a massive plantation house. The site of this ominous structure, isolated in this empty cornfield, is a memorable image that set the perfect creepy tone for the film. The estate consists of a large manor house, as well as several other structures, including barns, cattle pens, and a junkyard. The interior of the home is obviously less cramped than the 1974 home, but just as decrepit and disgusting. The basement where Leatherface does his nasty business leads into a furnace room which exits into an underground passageway, something that could naturally be utilized as an exit for gameplay. While the Hewitt House shares many similarities with the house from the original film, it has such a different feel from the 1974 house that I think it could easily exist side by side as a game map without feeling redundant. While we're on the topic of the remake, my next map suggestion is the Blair Meat Company. The Blair Meat Company is the setting for the climactic final showdown between Leatherface and Aaron in the 2003 remake. While there already is a slaughterhouse map in the game, the Blair Meat Company from the remake has a very different presence from that location. Blair Meat is a larger meat processing facility with more of an industrial presence than the game's more intimate rural slaughterhouse map. This place has the feel of a creepy abandoned factory crossed with a butcher shop. With dark corridors and interesting hiding places like lockers and animal carcasses, the Blair Meat Company has a lot to offer as a game map, with plenty of unique features that differentiate it from the current slaughterhouse map. Next up, the Gorman House Youth Reformatory. Set in 1960s Texas, the Gorman House Youth Reformatory is a location from the 2017 prequel Leatherface. Depicted as a harsh and brutal institution for troubled youth, it serves as a juvenile detention center where young individuals with criminal backgrounds or behavioral issues are sent for rehabilitation and discipline. While I'm not a big fan of this film, I can't deny that this setting has a wonderfully creepy old hospital vibe to it, seeing as the filming location was an actual old hospital facility in Bulgaria. From the dormitories, to the bathrooms, to these rooms where they performed cruel experiments on their young patients, this place is inherently oppressive and unsettling. Reformatory institutions are designed to keep inmates confined and prevent escapes. These facilities have various security measures in place to deter and prevent inmates from leaving, which could potentially open the gameplay up to unique escape mechanics that could add variety to the game without changing its fundamental nature. Next up, the mansion from 2013's Texas Chainsaw 3D. This is the mansion that Heather inherits from Verna Sawyer Carson in the 2013 sequel, without knowing she has a homicidal cousin living in the basement. What I like about this location is the contrast between the elegant upstairs area with its display of old southern wealth and the grimy basement where Leatherface has set up his murder laboratory. The estate also features an on-site graveyard where players could hide in open graves. There's also this creepy stable. The grounds are contained by a large stone fence with an electronic gate, which could easily be worked into the game's mechanics. While it is yet another house, I feel like visually, this one sticks out as a stark contrast to all the other homes in the series, making it worth a consideration. My final suggestion is the town of Harlow from the 2022 Netflix sequel, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The film takes place in a mostly abandoned small Texas town named Harlow, which in many ways acts as the modern equivalent of an old western ghost town. The key building in the film is the old orphanage where Leatherface lives. But we also get to see inside other locations like Harlow Tow and Garage and the Sagebrush Theater, a dilapidated theater that's completely gone to hell. I think being chased around a rundown theater is a fun enough idea in and of itself, but the town of Harlow features a variety of other abandoned buildings we never even get to visit in the film, like this old church, which the creative minds at Gun Interactive could utilize for a number of fun purposes. If they chose to feature the entire Harlow town square as seen in the film, they would obviously need to tweak some things to make it work for the game's escape mechanics. Aside from the variety of the buildings, what interests me about this location is that the layout is sort of the inverse of the existing maps. Instead of offering a core central building surrounded by an outdoor yard, this town square would have the buildings acting as the perimeter and the outdoor area in the center, so players would potentially be escaping inward instead of outward, if that makes sense. Now, just to reiterate, there is no guarantee we will ever see any content from the sequels in this game. Licensing content from films is a tricky business, and Gunn has been burned in the past with the Friday the 13th license. We've also seen situations where game developers have lost licenses for DLC, leading to the removal of existing game content. One example being the Hawkins map from Stranger Things being cut from Dead by Daylight. One possible workaround, even without licensing these films specifically, I imagine Gunn Interactive could do maps inspired by these settings without directly depicting these areas. For example, a rundown institution or a factory-like setting would work in the universe of the current game, even without directly basing them off the versions seen in these sequels. Just a thought. So what do you guys think? What settings would you like to see as future maps in the game? Maybe a setting I didn't include in this video? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and if you like horror stuff, check out some of my other videos and subscribe for even more. And until next time, later, Danger Seekers.